Peace and salute to the real ones. And welcome to another episode of Soulview. And today I have a very special guest with me. I found her channel on YouTube and I thought some of her videos were great. So I got the Mystical Room's own Estefani Labruja in the building, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Peace and welcome to the Dragon's Lair.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
It's all good. We glad to have you here too. So to give people like a sense of what you do and who you are, can you kind of tell us how you got started on this journey?
Yes. So I started this journey very young, or probably not as young as most people, but around my teens, interested in mental powers and energy manipulation. I had a lot of influences in my family as far as Santeria, a lot of Yoruba practices that are closed. But because I could not be initiated, I just decided to explore on my own and started doing what any young teenager would and start just dabbling in magic and creating things for myself, whether they were good or bad, if you want to use those terms. So essentially, I just started to make things happen visually and manipulating situations within myself for them to come into fruition. And to my demise, my past self kind of went through some chaotic situations. And now I'm here, fast forward like 15 plus years later, I am practicing magic and just showing people how to use really trust their inner God and goddess, trust themselves in the process of creating their own reality as it is on a physical realm.
Okay, that's awesome. So during that time, when we're trying to understand who we are and we're going through those type of, transitions, I like to call them, what has been challenging for you, and did you have any challenges with your family and friends as well along this path?
I am very combative by nature. This is something I've been conditioned to be. So I think it's my Latina side that I'm just very defensive. I am naturally defensive. So of course there's always going to be issues when a personality of mine comes into contact with maybe another or lesser of a personality like that, polarizing. But people in my family are very accepting, and not everyone is as fortunate as I am. And even friends, me just explaining what I do on a spiritual level, because I do find that it is my spiritual practice. It's not just a magical practice, because there's things I do on a daily basis to connect with my inner self, with my inner strength, with my inner power that elevates me as a person. So, me being able to share that story with people that I meet, even if they're the religious type or very righteous in the sense, it makes it an easier transition. Now, it's not always that way. I will not say that I've always had a very easy, soft way of explaining to people what I do, but I have compassion to the people that feel that there's only one way, because I get it. I've been there also.
Right.
So with that understanding, I can see like, okay, this isn't for you and it's not for you to understand, but I'm just still going to share this knowledge and let you know that you have options. You have a menu of choices, and they're beyond what you can see, beyond what you've been taught and conditioned to do. So I'm very fortunate that my family has been very understanding, very, kind of immersed in rituals and, and elevating themselves in a magical sense as well, even spiritually. So I have not had too many issues. I think not even in the spiritual community, I haven't really come across people that I've had issues with that maybe not like what I do, because I do believe in different philosophies. I do read a lot about a lot of religions and how they coincide and connect together, because they all seem to have a common thread. And that's what I enjoy. So the common thread normally with each is going within. And a lot of people don't want to own their personal power. They would rather give it away and pray or honor something that is beyond themselves. And that's the unfortunate part. That's where the control, I feel, lies with religion. They get to control people's decisions because people don't know how to trust themselves.
Yeah, that's powerful. And something that you said that I thought that was powerful as well is when you're talking about this unseen. You know, talk a little bit more about that unseen, because a lot of things that we've been taught, especially in school and especially here in America, has all been fed to us. You know what I'm saying? But this spiritual path is more of the unseen things. How powerful is the unseen?
Let's take thought. I mean, I hear a lot of people refer to this, or even energy, something that we cannot see that is
Right.
around us. People people still rely on it. It still has its purpose. It still serves us to use it on a daily basis.
Mm,
But what if I told you that even if you were not able to see these things, you still created it? Even if this maybe not so great point of your life, you attracted to yourself because you maybe needed to acquire this character building skill, or maybe it's a generational thing that you had to overcome for you to be able to own your personal power.
mm,
It's it's as small as a thought, but as big as it is, if that makes sense. It's just so
mm-hmm.
powerful, just because where do these thoughts even come from, really?
Woo,
If you
come
think
on.
about it,
Facts.
where do
Facts.
these
Come
thoughts
on,
even
man.
come from?
Yes.
Sometimes they're influence, sometimes the thoughts can choose us to be able to
Mm-hmm.
carry out the action that it needs to fuel. And this is where the energy coincides. This is where the unseen binds itself to the physical, which is us, our body, our vessel, our dreams. And
Mm,
that's how we can create, in this physical realm. So by having this connection with ourselves, by trusting ourselves, by actually attuning with the things that we firmly believe, we can create. I mean, people will be unstoppable if they
mm.
honestly, if they
Wow.
honestly believed in themselves. I think that's the first thing that I like to teach people, is just to have this firm belief within themselves. And that's so hard to empower people to actually believe in themselves, because that's where it all starts.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. And that's so true. I think that's one of the hardest things to really grasp on this journey is to believe in yourself. And I think that the reason why a lot of people feel that way is because they don't know themselves. So
Mm.
when you were on this path and you started to see things working, you started to see that you were manifesting things, but not only that you were manifesting things, that you had the ability to do that and to control it. How did you deal with that? And what was some of the rewards that you received, and what kept you motivated?
So I have an interesting story about the me creating in life, and probably attaching it to who I am as a being,
Okay.
because when I was younger, I felt very lost. And I still like to use that word a lot today. I felt very lost in the sense of who I was, or who I am, or, what was my purpose really to do here.
Okay.
And it really is about the creation part, whether I'm creating a connection with another human being and teaching them, skills to empower themselves and to use the spiritual practice for their benefit to elevate on this physical realm. But also to my demise. Like I said, when I was in the magical transition to spirituality, enmeshed together,
Mhm.
I created some pretty rough scenarios for myself. There was an accident that I had that was probably one of the most pivotal moments of my life, because I had seen this happening already. And I just kept drawing the thought. I
Mhm.
kept drawing the thought to myself. And I could say maybe 2 months later, after having this reoccurring thought and this visual that I was just crashing this car, I eventually created it. It ended up happening. So I always mention that, because it's powerful. Because I can not only create just good in my life, I can also create the opposite. There
Mm.
has to be a balance. And whether people want to believe that only good things are supposed to happen to you, it's literally what you put out, what your thought is attracting to you.
Mm.
So apart from that, though, just recognizing that there were mental abilities that I had, to be able to create things, to be able to have things come into fruition. It did start at a young age, around the age 18, 19. I would start creating these opportunities, just these coincidental things I thought at first,
Hmm.
of meeting a particular person or getting a particular job, being at the right place at the right time,
Right.
which led me to where I am today and with the circle that I have. And I want to say that it's not, sometimes we visualize these things and we think if they're supposed to be grandiose, sometimes they're very subtle. So we'll
Mm.
create the vision, we'll hold the thought, and the energy will attract itself to us. But us as humans, we're so conditioned to have instant gratification that it might not seem as grandiose as it should be. So I think there in my journey, I got kind of lost. I got kind of upset that things weren't as probably rambunctious or as dramatic as I'd like them to be, because I do like things to be dramatic.
Nothing
So
wrong
I
with
think that was
that.
that was the hard part for me, the accepting that sometimes it can be subtleties and it doesn't have to be, as big as a car accident or as big as like, landing my dream job or,
Right.
getting this amazing house or anything like that. It doesn't have to be that way. It can
Mm.
literally be pockets of the things that I need for the next step, for the next setup that I have to help another human being in a spiritual sense.
Mm. That's good. That's
So,
good. And something that you're saying, I want to ask you this, because I would say that realization right there is kind of what I would like to call a click moment or a breakthrough, to realize and to recognize something. Or what are some tips that one can do to manage those kind of things? Because you came to that realization, but that wasn't an easy thing to come to. You see what I'm saying?
right.
Or what kind of tips would you give for someone to realize that and actually manage some of those things?
So as far as the managing part, I hate that word. I hate using that word because I'm not a managing type of person. My
Okay.
polar opposite, my partner is very kind of like put together, logical. We got a plan, and I'm just like, no, like I'm based on intuition. I'm gonna feel my way through all of this.
Right. You need
So
that though. You need the other half like that.
right. So I would say for anyone that is experiencing this and wants to have kind of this relationship with themselves where they understand that it is not going to be like the fireworks and all these other things, it might just be subtle, is to have no expectations. And this is
Mm,
something that I've learned.
You got to say that again. Come on. You got to say that.
Have have no expectations,
There you go. Woo.
right? And that is hard. That is a hard practice and
That
it's
is
taken
hard.
years.
Hard.
It is. So just having the open-mindedness, being like, okay, I'm letting this thought go. I'm letting this come to me in whatever way it will. Just by that, by holding the thought and letting it go, having acceptance over it, that's it. You eliminate the expectation.
Mm.
I think that's probably the most easiest way I can explain how to do it, because everything else, if you just don't do that, then you're gonna go through the chaos, you're gonna go through the worry, the anxiousness on getting what it is that you want.
Right.
And some people do need that, unfortunately. Some people do need that. That was me when I was younger. So
Facts. Yeah, me too. So I
yeah.
definitely agree with you on that. So I appreciate the answer. And we talked about balance as well. How important is it for us to balance the physical and the spiritual realm while we're living on this plane?
Oh, I would say that there are people that probably never tap into the spiritual, and I find it so hard to imagine what life is like that.
Mm.
But for me, for someone who has gone through the trenches and can still even go through that mentally, when I'm creating these big scenarios, it is about just the trust in the process, the trusting in self that I am creating my reality. that I know what is best for me, that I know that I'm going to serve my greater good, because I'm not on this physical realm for, for play. I'm not just here to take up space.
Mm.
And based on my history and the contacts and connections and the healings and just the enlightenment of other people in my life, I can honestly say that that's the balance for me, probably just having the connection with other people, trusting myself, seeing that I can help another human being. And I'm very big on doing kind of like what church people would say, service work. I'm just very big on connecting with people, because if I get to share my experience in a magical or a spiritual sense, especially with like trauma, healing, with coming out of a situation that I didn't think I was going to come out of, anything like that, it creates a sense of validity for me. My
Mm.
ego, that part that I need for my ego to coincide with me spiritually on this
Mm.
physical realm, I need that. My ego needs that. And I like to have my ego stick around because it does serve its purpose. So
Right.
having that, just knowing that all the pieces are together and trusting that although things might be, a little sour or a little sweet sometimes, there will be those pockets where it is serendipitously divine. So
Mm.
I would say just having the trust in yourself, practicing that trust in yourself, practicing that what you're doing is for your greater good and not just adhering to these outside voices, the outside influences. I'd say that would create the perfect, not perfect, but it would create the balance of the spiritual and the physical, going within for sure.
Yes, yes, I agree. Well said. I appreciate that. And to kind of go back to that question that I asked you before, what keeps you motivated and what's the rewards? I know you talked and you mentioned about helping people, but the rewards for you as far as going down this journey, what has that looked like for you?
For me, it has honestly been working with other women. And it's not because I exclude men, it's men don't reach out to me, but it it's really working with other women get past a lot of trauma, a lot of self-doubt, and the dialogue of putting themselves down and not thinking that they can create something better, that they can't be elevated in the sense that they trust their God sense. They trust themselves that
Mm.
they're able to create. So for me, it is the connection with people, sharing knowledge, talking about different religions, different magical systems, energy science, meditation, vibrations, talking about all of these things and finding kind of like the smiles behind the faces of what is this vast world of spirituality, instead of it just being the same mundane thing that we were taught as kids, or for me in Catholic school, being taught like
Mm.
this is the only way. It's like, no, there's there's a vast world, and everything, when you're in this magical system, when you're in this spiritual system, everything looks magical. It just does.
It does. That's
Right.
awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome. It really does. And I think that's so dope that you do that for women because, you know, women to me, man, are like the heads of state. You know what I'm saying? Like us men, we do everything for you guys. So if you guys were able to work out traumas and understand who you are, we would then mold ourselves around you guys because we do everything for women. You know what I'm saying? And trying to, I would say, kind of counterbalance that energy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's great as far as doing that. And when I seen your information, I was like, man, I resonated with some of the stuff that you were saying. I was like, man, I definitely gotta reach out to her, because with me, I feel like you can learn from everyone. And I believe that women do bring a powerful tool and ingredients to the table. So salute
Yeah.
to you for doing that, you know.
Thank you.
And just to mention that you have your website, but you also have your YouTube page. Now, you talk a lot about certain magic rituals, right? Now, we've been talking about traumas, and just if you could just give me a quick, like a quick recipe or a quick ingredient that you have that you can give to people just for trying to heal some of those traumas.
So probably the biggest element that I use is fire, and just because I love fire. But I also like using water too. But fire is my number one. So for any of the traumas, I would say there has to be some digging, because we tend to suppress things for our own protection, of course.
Okay.
So things that we might not have remembered, there may be thoughts that are triggered. And this is really where we're supposed to get silent and go within to be able to unveil it, to write it down. And there's this powerful kind of like worksheet style thing that I do. And it has a lot of like the hurt that we carry around, hurt from other people, maybe, the grudges that we're holding on to, the literal hate that we carry around towards other people because they hurt us. So what I do, I like to take that and just list the situations and what they've done to me or the person that I'm working with. And what I do is we read them off and we're honest about what the situation looked like. What could have been different if this situation had not happened? What could have been different? And once we see what happened and what it could have been like, the middle is ours. We have the choice. We either dwell in the past or we create our reality of the right now. So once it's written down, I like to use a vessel of water. I like to use maybe a candle, maybe a pot, because sometimes the list is a few pages long, depending on kind of like who I'm working with or how long they've been on this earth. And we literally just burn it. We burn it, we put it in the vessel of water, and we let it go. We let it go into the ocean, into the river, depending on what their magical system is. Might go into a forest. It depends, but the water gets symbolically taken somewhere to rebirth from the ashes.
Dope. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So let me ask you this as well, because you also dabble in tarot as well, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how has that been beneficial for yourself and as well as for people that you've helped as well?
With people that have helped, for tarot readings, people like to hear what they want to hear, is what I've noticed. I've kind of paused my tarot readings for a while since I've been in the process of moving, but my last reading was someone who was just very enthralled in what was just presently in front of them and not what they could see beyond that. And not putting a judgment on anyone, but people do like to hear what they want to hear. They know that this is the answer that they want and they don't want to hear the opposite. So I find it's a very teachable moment for me, and it's a very teachable moment for the person that I'm reading. Okay. Because I'm giving your current circumstances, I'm giving you what can be done to change it. And then ultimately it's you're the one that has a choice. But it really is a portal. It's a connection with something, from their spirit that I feel needs to be said to them. It's really never about me. It's always about the person and what they need to hear. And like I said, sometimes they just don't want to hear it. But that's really what it is. It's never tarot for me, and the readings that I've been doing over the past forever. It's never doom and gloom. It's always an opportunity for growth.
That's powerful. And you mentioned they don't want to hear certain information, but that's important, right? Because if we're on the path of self-discovery, we have to first be accountable. And that's something that I like to stand on, and to me, it's like you can't go down this spiritual path if you're not accountable. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like we're saying a lot of things, and I believe that you're saying a lot of powerful things. And sometimes people hear in simple terms, you know, and they think that they grasp it and they can understand it, but it's really hard. You know what I'm saying? It's really a process. Like when you say trust yourself, it sounds easy, right? It sounds
Right.
easy, but that's one of the hardest things to do. You understand?
That's right.
Like
Yes.
people can understand my like this stuff to me, man. This is really a self journey, and it's really something that if you're going down this path, you really have to trust in yourself and trust the process, but really believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, just really believe it. And I kind of want to reiterate that to the people, man, is just to understand that these things may sound simple. They may sound very simple, but they're not. You know what I'm saying? They are very hard, and that's the work. That's the soul work that I'm talking about. And she's explaining it beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So really pick up on some of those jewels that we're talking about. And I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. But let me ask you this question as well. We're going into this new year, 2021. 2020 has been a year. You feel me? It's been a year. And for some, like we say, we don't like to use good or bad, but for some, it has been so-called bad. And for some, it has been so-called good. How have you been dealing with 2020? And what are you doing to prepare yourself for 2021?
So 2020 has definitely been the year of enlightenment for other people, for the people that were just the doers, for the purge of the soul and the spirit, you know, for connection with self. And I really feel that people did have a hard time with that. They had a hard time not being distracted because that is all that we're fed is
Yes.
distraction. So because I was in a position where I was still able to make connection with people, you know, I was able to see all sides of the spectrum. People suffering from depression, people not knowing what to do with themselves because they were home all the time. People not knowing how to actually integrate with their family because they were spending more time with them. People that didn't even know how to take 5 minutes to actually take a break. Like all of these things, you know, and then people feeling sorry for themselves because, you know, they still had to go to work, and obviously the fear that consumed everyone this year. You know, so I
Yes.
had a chance to really see all of these people and to actually experience all of these feelings from them, you know, and just like conversation, because I felt like really this time was, you know, for me to have a greater purpose of like helping someone else out throughout this year of, I guess, a trial for people that are just doers, people that like to stay distracted, who don't want to make any kind of resignation within. For me, just being able to be of service, really being able to experience other people's dilemmas, to see how they worked through it, to see how things change, how their perspective changed, how more grateful they were to, you know, actually be able to have dinner with the family and not be upset that they were home all day. You know, for people to relax and to take it easy, for to do some self-reflection, to maybe, you know, balance their books and things like that. I felt that I got a lot of gratification from seeing people grow, really. And I got a lot of growth throughout that process as well. A lot has happened this year. You
Yes.
know, for me as well, spiritually, there has been so many changes that I didn't expect, that I didn't call into my grid square, but they just happened to come in. And, you know, from that, I'm able to create a new reality. Now I'm moving. I'm starting a new journey with a loving partner. Things are completely changing for me. Someone who, you know, didn't accept love into her life once upon a time ago is now able to do so. So that's where I say it's been a
That's
big
dope.
year, right? So for me, it's just been that. And for 2021, I literally feel that it cannot get any worse or better. So
That's
I'm just
classic
gonna
right
wing
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's classic right there. And I feel you. And you know, congrats to you, you know, for moving and for opening your heart up. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, I think that's a big part of our journey. You know, I always talk about the self journey, and this is a me journey, not a we journey, which is true. But we're also understanding that we're human beings. You know what I'm saying? So we do like to be around people and relate to people and be social. So another part of that is just finding your counterbalance, finding that right one. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that looks like for you, and working that out. So that's awesome that you get to experience that. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of working out that trauma. You know what I'm saying? It's part of doing the work, you know, and that's kind of the reward you're getting. You know what I'm saying? So that's awesome that you get to experience that. So salute to you for that. But yes, I believe 2021, it can't get any worse. You know what I'm saying? It definitely is going to be a fresh start, I believe, in for a lot of us. And I believe that you was in a position this year, just like myself, to really help those who aren't on this frequency. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like kind of like we was championing for this year to really help those people. Think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like we got to this point to start reaching out to people who really wasn't understanding some of this stuff that we were talking about. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we're all part of this movie. We're all playing our individual roles. And it's awesome to see that you're doing that and you're trying to set it up for next year as well. So you say you're not doing your tarot readings right now. Are you trying to open that back up for next year as well?
I am. Yes, I am. After the 20th of this month, I will be open to end year readings for the new year. So I should have a schedule up as of January 2nd. I should have a schedule up. And I'm
January
also
2nd.
doing,
Okay.
and I'm also doing like past life regressions as well. So I'm getting training on that. So I'm
Oh, that's dope.
excited.
That's
Yes.
dope. That's dope, man. My homie Q Reeves, I don't know if you heard him. The interview I did with him before, he does that as well too. So
Yes.
that's a good practice. So that's dope and that's awesome. So before I let you go as well, tell the people your channel, your website, and anything else you would like to tell them.
So my name is Estefani Labruja, and I am from the Mystical Room, where we explore a lot of mysticism, lots of magic, and now vibrating to a different level in life. So you can follow me on TikTok at the Mystical Room. You can follow me on YouTube on the Mystical Room, on Instagram at the Mystical Room, and the website is at the Mystical Room.
That's awesome. And I went to your website. It looks dope. You know what I'm saying? So y'all check it out.
I need to do better. But thanks.
No, it just looks nice, and I like the pricing on it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a fan of numbers. You know what I'm saying? So I like the pricing on it. I dig that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and much love and much success to you in the future. All
Thank
right,
you so much.
not a problem. This has been another episode of Soulview, y'all. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.